convention that members wishing to ask a question should be in the chamber to hear the Minister's statement in its entirety. Before I call the Minister, I also remind members that they must be concise in asking their question. This is not an opportunity for debate, and long introductions will not be allowed. Minister.
With your permission, Mr. Speaker, I wish to make a statement regarding my decision on how Northern Ireland will deal with XL bully breed type dogs. I, like all members of this House, am acutely aware of the devastating impact that can arise when dogs become out of control. Sadly, as we have seen across the UK and Ireland in recent months, the devastation is multiplied when the dogs involved are large and powerful. Only last month we learned of another tragic death in Essex attributed to an XL bully breed type dog. The Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs recently highlighted that actions taken in England and Wales against the breed were done so following a concerning rise in fatal dog attacks involving the XL bully breed type. It indicated that up until 2021 there were around 3 fatalities per year, and that there have been 23 from 2021 to the 1st of February 2024, and that the XL bully breed type was involved in many of these tragic attacks. In response to the measures against the breed introduced in England, the Scottish Government has also now felt it necessary to take action for the purposes of public safety. Mr. Speaker, there are countless genuine bully breed enthusiasts who look after their dog with boundless love and dedication. But unfortunately, the development of these dogs has sometimes suffered at the hands of the wrong types of owners, and dogs bred to have exaggerated features or to be overtly aggressive. Their sheer size, strength and aggression can, in some instances, make them inherently more dangerous. Breeds of this size and nature require careful, experience and dedicated training by owners who understand their characteristics and temperament. Unfortunately, in some instances, XL bully breed type dogs are seen as a status dog. Their size and stature can be heralded and sought after by entirely the wrong sort of dog owner. They can be used to intimidate, enforce and project an image for the person holding the lead. No responsible dog owner would let their dog be the subject of a range of ear mutilations, as we have seen with several XL bully breed type dogs. These dogs have also been a high-priced commodity, fetching tens of thousands of pounds, leaving the breed more vulnerable to improper breeding, as well as being bred for illegal fighting. In short, in the wrong hands, they are abused as a commodity, a tool, or even a weapon. Again, let me repeat, I acknowledge there is many genuine XL bully breed enthusiasts who look after their dog with boundless love and dedication. I want to be crystal clear on this point. However, I am also conscious of the public safety risk and that Northern Ireland is the only place across the UK and Ireland that still permits unrestricted XL bully ownership. I have to determine quite rapidly if this remains a sustainable position. As Minister, I have to juggle competing priorities and work out how best to protect the public, how best to protect the interest of dog owners, the welfare of the dogs themselves, and how to make a decision that is proportionate and based on the best possible evidence. It has quickly become clear that there was no perfect solution to this problem. My officials and I have met with animal welfare organisations to hear their views on this matter and the approach taken elsewhere to deal with dangerous dogs. I appreciate that the deed, not breed approach advocated. Welfare groups and umbrella bodies like the Dog Control Coalition have made their case passionately. I have nothing but admiration for the dedication and commitment these organisations demonstrate to safeguarding animals. Mr. Speaker, I too have made clear that I want to protect animals and enhance animal welfare. Let no one be in any doubt that I am on the same page as these valued stakeholders. Taking action now to safeguard the public against the risks posed by XL bully breed type should be viewed as complementary and additional to our dog control policies rather than instead of or at odds with them. But when it comes to dog control, I also have an onus to ensure public safety and act when there is a need. As Minister with responsibility for this area, I must balance the needs and concerns of all our citizens. I have read the letters that have come across my desk, and I have responded to questions raised by members of this House. It is evident there is public worry about XL bully dogs in Northern Ireland and the potential harm they could do. When I assumed this role, I knew I would have difficult or potentially unpopular decisions to make. I will not shirk that responsibility. Therefore, I task my officials with keeping track of the number of licensed XL bully breed type dogs in Northern Ireland on a weekly basis. In the 5 months since the announcement of measures in England and Wales to restrict ownership, measures that were then replicated in Scotland, there has been greater than a 50% increase in the number of XL bully breed type dogs licensed by our councils. Mr. Speaker, I should make it clear that when dog owners license their dog with the council, the breed is self-declared and not subject to further scrutiny. I know just how much people here love and value their dogs, and I am in no doubt that the overwhelming majority of owners license their dogs properly and record the breed to their best of ability. But it has not escaped me that the number of XL bully breed type dogs in Northern Ireland could very well be underreported. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, I cannot rule out that the significant uplift in XL bully dogs finding a home here is due to displacement from England, Scotland and Wales. I understand that well-intentioned individuals and organisations have expressed a desire to rehome these dogs, which they feel may be otherwise be abandoned. However, there is no way of determining if these dogs have been appropriately trained, socialised, or demonstrated aggressive behaviours in the past. I do not wish to scaremonger. I will remain grounded in the facts. The overall population of these dogs remains low, especially when compared to other parts of the UK. However, I am conscious of our own capacity in Northern Ireland to receive unwanted dogs, nor do I want to expose the public to an exacerbated level of risk. I have been advised that there are 140 XL bully dogs licensed right now, up from around 90 last October. Therefore, it is time to act. Whilst numbers remain manageable, and we can, in the main, track where these dogs are, I want to reassure members of this House and the people of Northern Ireland that I have not rushed into a decision. I have carefully considered all aspects and have not taken this decision lightly. I am also aware that I cannot delay acting any further. Northern Ireland has sadly not been immune to attacks by XL bully breed type dogs. Many will be aware of the very public case in the Armagh, Banbridge and Craigavon District Council area, where a man suffered life-changing injuries at the hands of one of these dogs. Mr. Speaker, none of us want to hear about another attack like that. Public safety of the people of Northern Ireland is my utmost concern. So today, I'm announcing the introduction of new safeguards surrounding XL bully breed type dogs in Northern Ireland. I will lay legislation before this House which will mean that the owners of XL bully breed type dogs will be required to take measures when their dog is in public. I will introduce a scheme which will require owners to appropriately record and account for their dog with the relevant authorities. Owners will be required to keep their dog on a lead at all times in a public place and ensure that the dog is muzzled. Their XL bully breed type dog will also be neutered, and breeding from these dogs will be prohibited. I also want to advise that once this legislation is made, it will no longer be permissible to sell an XL bully breed type dog, to abandon an XL bully breed type dog, or give away an XL bully breed type dog. Mr. Speaker, my department will provide further detail on these safeguards in due course and the dates when they will come into effect. Following my announcement today, I will be writing to the Northern Ireland Local Government Association, with my officials writing to all local councils to inform them of my decision. I recognise this decision will have a definitive impact on the dog warden service. I would like to use the expertise and experience of our councils and their dog wardens in particular, who are well versed in the right and proper ways to deal with dangerous dogs and dog control measures. So, with that in mind, I intend to establish a working group containing representatives from my department and key council staff to design and implement an exemption scheme which is straightforward as the legislation can permit. But let me reassure the owners and advocates of the XL bully breed type dogs. I am committed to providing you with the right information, and I am committed to providing you with the necessary space to make informed decisions about your dog ownership. However, if the owner of the XL bully breed type dog does not wish to adhere to these measures and no longer wishes to keep their dog, provision will be made to surrender that dog and their dog will be euthanised. No owner will be forced to give their dog up or made to hand over their dog. I am giving the owners of XL bully breed type dogs the ability to be responsible and compassionate owners, of which I know many are. I am offering them a pathway to enduring and lasting ownership of their valued dog. Only the owners of the dogs will determine what happens. My officials will now work at pace on the necessary legislation, as well as the scheme to register and record XL bully breed type dogs. Given my announcement today, I would urge prospective owners of XL bully breed type dogs to seriously bear in mind the need to adhere to the new safeguards. This is an appeal to those people. If you're minded to acquire an XL bully breed type dog and currently do not own one, you need to know that the laws and your obligations will change. I appreciate, Mr. Speaker, that there will be a thirst for more information. My department will develop guidance and practical support to allow owners to understand the impending legislative changes, including how to identify an XL bully breed type dog using the standard developed by the UK Government. I realise, Mr. Speaker, there will be dog owners and stakeholders within our community who feel I have valued their views less than others. That is not the case. Longer term, I have a desire to explore the possibility of meaningful reform to our dog control laws in close cooperation with key stakeholders in the sector. I am acutely aware of the calls to deal with the deed, not the breed, and criticism of breed-specific legislation. But I'm left as Minister with the situation as it presents itself with the legislation as currently available in the context of public safety risks. I would ask that those people listening to me today who wish to shape the future, please work with me to enhance our legislation and put in place initiatives that eradicate the irresponsible practices and ownership which have created the conditions which I am now trying to put right. I am, however, faced with the situation and the reality of today. Safeguarding measures must be implemented for the safety and the protection of the public. Thank you.
Call Patsy Midlone.
Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank the Minister for his statement. The general theme of what the Minister is proposing here does require quite a bit of supervision and monitoring, and I see that you have mentioned, Minister, the role and function of dog wardens at Council. Inevitably, that will be increased role and function for those dog wardens in terms of enforcement, monitoring and the likes. Will additional resources be provided to those councils in order to effect that monitoring and enforcement? Thank you.
I thank the member for his questions. My officials will be engaging with councils in the weeks ahead to plan for the operational delivery of this. I do acknowledge that it will involve additional work for local councils, and my department will be engaging with the councils in the weeks ahead through the working group so we can advance the development of this scheme. I'm conscious of financial pressures associated with district councils, and what will be key in terms of what my department can achieve over the time ahead in terms of working with the councils and what they can do, but also general animal welfare issues, is the budget settlement I receive for the next financial year. And I think it's absolutely critical that I outline that, because the budget I receive next year will be instrumental in terms of determining what more we can do as a House and as a government around animal welfare. Thank you.
Declan McAleer.
Just picking up on the theme of Mr Malone there, the department obviously ceased the £1.25 million funding last year for animal welfare from local councils. Will this be something that the Minister might want to review?
Minister. I'm very aware of that issue upon inheriting the department and the budget challenges that the Permanent Secretary was managing within in year. Something I'm quite keen to do is to look to see how we can invest in animal welfare and how we can work with district councils to support them. But the most fundamental is as much money I am awarded as a department for the next financial year, and that will determine the way forward. I recognise this decision will provide challenges for many. It's provided challenges for myself in terms of taking the decision, but most importantly it will provide challenges for the rehoming centres, for the stakeholders and also for district councils. And I'm keen to do whatever I can within the budget I have for next year to support them.
Michelle McIlvaine.
Statement, and generally I wouldn't be personally in favour of a blanket ban of breeds. I think it's too easy to blame the dog rather than the owner. I certainly have sympathy for those who are responsible dog owners. But can I ask the Minister what discussions he or his officials have had with the Housing Executive and other social landlords in respect of this proposed legislation, and how this may impact on tenants who are XL bully owners?
Minister.
I thank the member for a question. As part of the work in the time ahead, we will be engaging with relevant stakeholders, including the ones you outline in relation to this, because I'm aware that the road ahead in terms of implementation will need to engage with different stakeholders in society, so I look forward to continuing that engagement with the people you outline.
John Blair.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I thank the Minister for his statement. I have no doubt, Mr Speaker, the Minister will have given this matter the most serious of consideration. Can I ask the Minister if he would be willing to come to a meeting of the Assembly All-Party Group on Animal Welfare to discuss the proposals he has outlined today, as well as other related animal welfare matters?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I would be delighted to attend a meeting of the All-Party Group, and it's important that myself as Minister do engage with the relevant all-party groups, but also stakeholders and then statutory bodies, as has been outlined by Member McIlvaine. I think it's important to state, and I'll put it again on the record here, that I am not taking this decision in isolation. It is my strong desire that we bring animal welfare legislation not just up to speed, because we have fallen behind compared to the rest of the UK and Ireland, but we become an exemplar to others. Realistically, to enact primary legislation will take approximately 18 months. So I'm with the situation that presents itself now, but it's my desire within this mandate is that we bring animal welfare legislation up to speed and we become a role model for others across the UK and Ireland. And I'm looking forward to engaging with the All-Party Group to see how we can achieve that, because converting policy proposals into legislation can be a challenge. And that's something I'm looking forward to that discussion around that.
Alan Chambers.
I certainly commend the Minister for his prompt response in bringing forward these thoughts on legislation, and I acknowledge the fact that he says there's no perfect solution. But the legislation all talks about measures that are going to be taken when these dogs are in the public setting. But we'll have to acknowledge that the death in Essex was actually a living room setting. So I'm wondering, has the Minister given any consideration to how he might protect families of owners of these dogs in the home setting? Thank you.
Nicola Brogan, or Minister.
I thank the member for his question. He's right in saying that there's no perfect solution in relation to this, and these measures are largely dealing with in the public setting rather than in the home. And that's what talks to the point I outlined earlier in terms of the legislation we have at the moment. I'm sitting here as Minister. This is week 5 of the job. I have the tools presented to me in terms of legislation. That's all I have access to. So what I'm doing is working with what I've got at the moment. I do have a desire to look at legislation in the longer term to see how we can actually be fit for purpose around this. I would say that the stories, we're all aware of the stories in terms of not just the fatalities, but people who have had life-changing injuries as a result of this. And this causes me real apprehension and concern. And I honestly did not feel as Minister that I could take no decision in relation to this or take no action because I couldn't live with myself with that.
Nicola Brogan.
Thank you, Minister, for your statement. Minister, this breed of XL bully type dog isn't specifically banned in the south of Ireland, but instead it falls under a list of restricted breeds. Can the Minister tell me if he has liaised with his colleague Heather Humphreys on this matter and what his assessment is of the approach of the Southern Government on this?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I have engaged with Minister Humphreys this morning, and I think this is an example where we need to be able to get the north-south institutions up and running, and we need to be working north-south, east-west in relation to these matters, and the fact that these institutions didn't sit for 2 years has set us back in relation to that. The legislation in the south is different than the north, and they have a provision for restricted dogs lists, and as part of that then restricted dogs must be muzzled and also must be on a strong leash or chain not exceeding 2 metres in length and must be handled by a competent person over 16 years of age. And where Minister Humphreys announced at the end of last year to undertake a review in relation to this and also a increase in relation to the fines. So it's something that's under active consideration as part of that. And this is an issue, it's not just unique to Northern Ireland. Some of the research I've done in recent days that this is a global issue in terms of the challenges to governments across Europe and beyond.
William Irwin.
Can I welcome a statement from the Minister today? In England and Wales, third-party liability insurance is required along with an age restriction to own or walk an XL bully dog. Does the Minister plan to introduce these measures as part of his legislation being brought forward?
Minister.
So there will be a requirement to obtain public liability insurance as part of these requirements, and I would say in terms of the figures and in terms of the rollout of the scheme in England and Wales, we understand that there's been an application for 56,000 exemption certificates, but only 300 people have given up their animals, so it gives a context in terms of how that scheme's going. And I would reiterate the point which Alan Chambers outlined. There was no perfect solution available for me in relation to this, so all I'm doing is using what's available to me now.
Patrick Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister for his statement, and he has clearly articulated the need to balance public safety with animal welfare. Can I ask the Minister how this statement relates to his wider agenda for updating animal welfare legislation and policy in Northern Ireland?
Minister.
Thank the member for his question. I have been engaging with the officials over the last 4 weeks about a range of areas, but including in relation to animal welfare and also this matter. I'm engaging with the officials later this week again in relation to the priorities in terms of policy and legislation around this area. I have a desire to use secondary legislation and primary legislation to update our animal welfare provisions in Northern Ireland, and I think it's important that I set that out as a key priority for me, and this statement today does not distract from that. I would say that as Minister I have balanced and also I believe have put at the forefront the issue of public safety and animal welfare in making this decision, because it's not lost upon me that a number of owners, not all, and I think it's important to say that there is many responsible owners of XL bully breed type dogs, and it's important I state that, but it's also not lost upon me that I have seen examples of where people have acquired the dog and frankly abused the dog for their own self-gratification and reflection of power, and I think that is a disgrace that anyone would use an animal for their own gratification and their own desire to have control within their local community, and we need to call time on that.
Deborah Erskine.
I thank the Minister for his statement today. Of course, the issue just isn't in relation to attacks to people. In the rural areas, such as my own constituency, we've seen attacks on livestock as well, which destroys farmers' livelihood, and that's just not in relation to XL bully dogs. So will the Minister commit to dealing with this issue overall and create more powers for our local councils in relation to dealing with this issue and to protect farmers' livelihoods?
Minister.
I thank the member for her question. She's right in stating that. There's probably two aspects to your question. One has been the attacks upon other dogs, and I know one of the members in this House brought to me concerns in relation to another dog which was killed by an XL bully breed type dog whilst the person was out walking the dog, and that caused real trauma for the family associated with that. But the other issue is in terms of livestock worrying, and it was on BBC Radio Ulster's Countryside programme at the weekend in terms of concerns around that and the impact that that can have upon the farming business and upon those livestock. And it's something I'm quite keen to explore with officials, what more we can do to deal with this issue, because obviously there's enforcement powers, but also there's education issues as well in terms of farms that are closer to urban areas and people not understanding the need to ensure that their dog is kept under control. So it is something I'm concerned about, and I would thank the programme at the weekend on the radio to highlight these issues.
Robbie Butler.
Mr. Speaker, thank the Minister for his statement, but the Minister will also understand that there will be many responsible owners quite concerned this morning. And in regard to the definition of an XL bully dog, could he give a clearer definition of what will constitute that? Because there will be other bulldog owners that aren't XL bullies that will be seriously concerned this morning.
Minister.
I thank the member for his question. So, as I outlined in the statement, we'll be seeking to use the definition which has been adopted by the UK Government. There was a working group set up by DAERA around that. I acknowledge this will cause concern, and for people that I'm making an announcement and bringing in enhanced restrictions associated with that. I would ask people to give us time so we can publish guidance in relation to this and give clarification around that, because our desire is to do that. But this is not a decision I've rushed into, and I'm very conscious, as you said, there is very many responsible owners, and let's be clear that the overwhelming majority of owners this will not cause a problem to, because there will be a road towards applying for an exemption certificate associated with that, and we'll be able to ensure that those dogs will continue to be loved and cared for, but also safeguarding the public.
Connie Egan.
Thank you, Minister, for coming to the House today with this statement. I think you have clearly outlined how you have balanced public safety and animal welfare in this decision. I was very concerned to learn of the XL bully attack recently in Northern Ireland, where someone sustained life-changing injuries. Could you please outline if you considered any other options before announcing this decision today?
Minister.
I thank the member for her question, Mr. Speaker. I did look through many different options, and particularly in relation to the legislation that's presented to us. I looked at what flexibilities would be associated with that, whether, for example, if the owner decided that they didn't wish to apply for an exemption certificate, what options other than euthanasia would exist associated with that, and whether, for example, we could give assistance in terms of rehoming associated with that. That wasn't possible. So I do honestly and genuinely feel to the House today, I say, that I fully explored all options that are available to me in relation to this, and the decision that I've announced today to me was the only viable option for me to proceed with. I know it will cause apprehension and concern, not just to the owners of the dogs concerned, but also in terms of stakeholders. I get that, I fully appreciate that, but all I would ask is that I have made this decision in full cognizance of the facts and the need to take a decision on this matter, and really, frankly, to say that I took this job not because I thought it was easy, but because I knew it was hard.
Paul Fruit.
Minister, you talk about the going to design and implement an exemption scheme. What is the exemption scheme designed to do? And also, what's the difference between a register and the licence itself?
Thank the member for his question. So the exemption scheme will be that the individual will, the owner, will apply for a certificate of exemption, and as part of that there will be a number of conditions associated with that. So the animal will need to be neutered, will need to be kept on a leash and muzzled in public. There also need to be public liability insurance. The animal will need to be kept in secure conditions. We also inform authorities of any change of address, and also then there's the wider requirements in terms of not selling, exchanging or giving away the animal. Just also to outline in terms of the licensing scheme that we have in Northern Ireland, we're rather unique that we continue to have that scheme for dogs in Northern Ireland. I think that's a good thing. Other parts of the UK don't have that, but there also is a risk that not everyone does licence their dog associated with that, and hopefully today is an opportunity to continue to remind people of the requirement to licence for the dog. If I can, also in terms of the certificate of exemption, some queries may arise about how much would that cost. We obviously have to set a price associated with that. We would not intend to generate a profit associated with the cost of that. The fee that is charged in England is £92.40, but we want to work genuinely with district councils in relation to the rollout, because primarily it is themselves that will be the administration of this scheme. So hopefully that answers the member's question.
John Stewart.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Minister for his statement and also agree that the overwhelming majority of dog owners are responsible. Minister, do you foresee a significant increase in the amount of XL bully dogs coming here to Northern Ireland from GB before legislation is put in place? And what engagement have you had with the RSPCA and USPCA, who are opposed to the ban, and to alleviate the concerns they have and further understand the message they're putting out? Thank you.
Minister.
No problem. So just in terms of engagement with the RSPCA and USPCA, I spoke to the USPCA before I made the statement. I'm very conscious that they don't agree with my position in relation to that, and I'm very aware of that. But what I have to do as Minister is take decisions in the round in terms of conscious of public safety around that. I've made my desire to continue to engage with the USPCA and other organisations in the time ahead, so we can shape much better and fit for purpose legislation around animal welfare, and that's a genuine desire to do that. And I understand the genuine position that they come from and what they advocate for, and that is a genuinely held position which I have a lot of respect for. In terms of additional XL bully breed type dogs coming to Northern Ireland, I think that the decision here today is sending out a clear message that there will be restrictions come in place in Northern Ireland in the time ahead, and I think that's important I do that. I think if I left it any longer, the level of risk in terms of more animals coming to Northern Ireland would be extremely increased. So I think the decision I've reached today hopefully provides a clear message and a deterrence associated with that, that if anyone is thinking of coming to Northern Ireland with the dog, that there also will be enhanced restrictions in place to safeguard the welfare of the animal, but also public safety.
Jim Alistair.
The Minister will be aware that in England there is a live judicial review of the measures taken there. How far has what has emerged in that informed the Minister's approach? And when he refers to legislation in this statement, I take it he's referring to secondary legislation, and will that be by negative or affirmative resolution, and what's the timeline?
Minister.
I thank the member for his question. I'm very conscious of the judicial review and the issues associated with that, and I've taken cognizance of that. I've also taken cognizance of the public safety risk and the need to act swiftly in relation to this. In terms of legislation, it will be 2 negative SRs, and the desire would be that we would delay the first one in April or May, and then the second one, which will cover the compensation scheme thereafter, and have the scheme operational in summer of this year.
Jonathan Buckley.
Speaker, and apologies to the Minister for not being in at the start of his statement. The Minister will be aware that the majority of domestic animals have the potential to be dangerous if they get into the hands of the wrong owners. So therefore, what efforts can the Department take to ensure that we do not gaslight particular breeds, but rather run out of town dangerous and irresponsible dog and other breed owners?
I thank the member for his question. I do not seek to gaslight any breeds. What I seek to do is be driven by the evidence and about safeguarding the public around this. There is a wider message which applies in terms of people's responsibility as dog owners to ensure that they're sure their dog is kept under control and the public is remained safe. And that's the message I send here today, that this is not unique to just one breed. There is a wider issue here. But also I would say that the overwhelming majority of dog owners are responsible, they're caring, and they're considerate for other people. And I think that's the message we need to send very clearly from this. Whatever funding my department receives over the time ahead will allow us to do the education work as you're outlining in terms of responsible ownership, and I think it's quite key that we focus upon that, because anything we do as government should always be focused upon raising awareness around issues such as this.
Cara Hunter.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the Minister for his statement. And Minister, I'm mindful that this statement may lead to the need for additional resource for councils and dog wardens. Currently in my own council area, dog wardens finish at 4 p.m. throughout the week and are not available on weekends. Does this concern the Minister, and is this something he will discuss with local councils in the coming weeks? Thank you.
Minister.
Thank the member for a question. It is something I will continue to engage with district councils. I'm aware of the financial challenges that both they and my department face in relation to this, and it's quite key that we find a way forward in relation to this matter.
Mark Durkin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the Minister for his statement. His brave statement, which not only goes against the recommendation of USPCA but also against his own stated party policy. I recognise that's not an easy position to take. Has the Minister given any thought at this early stage to what penalties might face those in breach of his proposed legislation?
Minister.
I thank the member for his question and for his detailed understanding in terms of Alliance Party policy. I do not agree that it is in contravention to Alliance Party policy. When you take up ministerial office, your first and foremost duty is to safeguard the public and not play party politics with things like this. There is penalties laid out in the legislation, and hopefully we don't have to resort to those.
That concludes questions on the statement. If members will take their ease before we move to the next item of business.